Okay, here we are.
Here we are.
Welcome to the Archivio Negroni. Welcome to my audience. Welcome to our friends. And sorry. Sorry, I have to shut down my. Okay. And above all, welcome to Charon Kransen from New York. I'm very, very happy for this connection, and I hope that everything is okay with the gap of our times. In New York is right near lunchtime, and I double thank you, Sharon, to share with us your time. So just a brief introduction to let know our friends about you. You come from Holland, and you have been studying in Europe, in Germany, in Norway, and then started your career as a teacher in Utrecht and Amersfoort universities, and then started a connection, a very deep connection with United States, and that's the foundations of your gallery in New York. So this happened 3 decades ago. So you have a great experience, a great accomplishments with jewelry, with art jewelry, and it is really a pleasure to having collaborated with you in Italy a couple of years ago with seminars and lectures, and also met you at art fairs. So this is really a great honor to have you with us. Thank you again, Sharon.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody.
So you have a great orange wall behind you, and this is like the starting point of your gallery and your relations with a huge number of artists that you represent. Actually, you represent in the US.
Right. Well, it's actually just to, it's a little bit confusing because this is more like a showroom. I present myself as a gallery at the art fairs, but I don't have a physical gallery. This is, like I said, what you see is, oops. Sorry. So it's a little confusing because like I said, I present myself as a gallery at the art fairs and other presentations. But here in New York, I work by appointment. And the reason of this format is because I do a lot of other things like lectures and seminars and jurying. So having a gallery means you just have to be there
every day.
And at this point in my life, that's not what I want. So I chose this format, and so far it's working, even though who knows what will work in the future, but that's a whole different story.
And you have also, you are a benchmark in the literature of the fields, as your selection, your monthly newsletter with the selection of books that you discover and you spread to your audiences, really at the top of the interesting investigation in the field.
Well, it's, it all sort of ties into something that just sometimes happens in life. I mean, the fact that I have been living in America was, in a way, pure coincidence, because I followed love. I met somebody from America, and and I never thought in my life that I would be living in America. And now I've been living here already 35 years or something. And representing artists was also something that I never envisioned, actually. But when I came to the States, I didn't even have a working permit. So I had a tourist visa, and of course I did all these illegal jobs because I wasn't allowed to work. And then I got the green card, etc., etc., etc. And I started to organize exhibitions, and one thing led to the other, and all of a sudden I was representing artists. Same with the books. I remember maybe 30 years ago or so, I went to the annual SNAG conference. SNAG stands for Society of North American Goldsmiths. And I brought some publications because I love publications. I came from academia, so I'm a trained jeweler myself, so I always collected publications in my field. And I remember during that conference, people just went crazy about, I just brought some to show. And
your library. You were.
I don't even remember, maybe I was like, 12 or 15 publications with me, and people like, where do you get this? Where? Oh, I want it. So to make a long story short, that's when I started to distribute books on jewelry, historical, ethnic, contemporary, and technical. And I think I carry, I don't know, over 2,000 titles. And it was never planned, but it just came in front of me, and I said, okay, do I want this? Well, yes, because it is part of education. And I suppose everything I do in the end is really about education, whether you do an art fair or whether you give a lecture or a seminar, and books, of course, also are part of education. So it's all in the same field, and believe me, this was never planned, but hey.
But in fact, since the beginning, what maybe you intersect was the innovation. You bring something new, something unseen, both in art, wearable art, and in with the books, with studying. So this something that you were so smart in investigate this field and show this field to new people in the US.
I don't know if I'm really that smart and whether it was a matter of smart. I think, and it's actually, I'm glad you're mentioning it, because in the end, I think it is about path. And what do I mean by that is, I could have chosen something different. I could have decided to stay at the academy in Utrecht where I was teaching. But something happened in my life, and that changed my life. And of course, it was a complete insecure new reality, because the work that I brought over from Europe was, for the most part, not really seen in this country. There were Joke van Ommen. For those who don't know, Joke van Ommen was a Dutch woman married to an American guy. She opened jeweler's work in Washington, D.C., and she was really one of the first people who brought European jewelry and European aesthetic to the gallery. And this was I believe, in the early 90s. And, she brought work that nobody had really seen. I think Helen Drudd brought some of the European work also, but Joke van Ommen's gallery was really specialized in European work. And right in the beginning, at some point, and we had several meetings, because she was in DC and she was considering maybe opening a dépendance of the gallery in New York. And
what was the name of the gallery?
Jeweler's Work.
Jeweler's Work.
Jeweler's Work. And we were discussing, how that would work. I would run the gallery in New York. And anyway, to make a long story short, she was then unfortunately killed in a car accident. And so that whole thing sort of disappeared. And then after a few years, Ellen Reben took over the gallery. But you're right. For the most part, this was work that people had not really seen.
Did not expect,
didn't know how to appreciate it, because there was no reference really. And but I think what is essential is this was the work that I knew, this was the work of my history, and this was work I believed in. So when I started after a few years to participate in art fairs, and I wasn't even a physical gallery, I remember that first sofa show. I think it was in 1994 or 93, I can't remember. And everybody was talking about who is this guy and what is the work? What's,
It was the only booth
Sorry?
It was the only booth of jewelry in Sofa, the first one.
The only booth of jewelry, but it was the only booth with, I would say, exclusively European work. Maybe for the most part, Dutch work. And anyway, the response was great and blah, blah, blah. And then, of course, other galleries came who also started to work, to show European work. And but I think, again, I believed in the work, no matter how difficult the situation was. And when I say difficult, it has a lot to do with the fact, I remember I organized a traveling exhibition with, I believe, 25 Dutch artists, and it traveled to 20 places in Canada and the US, and nothing was sold, or barely anything was sold. Why? Because it was a big recession. I believe that was in 1988 or 1989. I can't remember exactly. But it became so significant to understand this is really what happens in life. I've chosen a profession as a jewelry artist, that is going to be a difficult ride, because
and it's still going more and more difficult in recent years.
Compare it with the bigger commercial or traditional or high-end jewelry in the field. It is a very small field, and you're not going to have a weekly paycheck. Your income is going to go like this,
up and down,
and you need to do a lot to educate, because this is a rather new and young field. And when I think about, and I remember asking myself, what am I supposed to do? I didn't want to teach right away, but what am I going to do? And how am I going to have an income in the time of a recession? Quite frankly, the only thing that kept me going was to know that quality will always be recognized. It's going to take time, and it will require a lot of education.
And this is also the criteria that guides your choices connected to the artist that you represent.
Right, because I've been, as I mentioned, I've been a trained jeweler starting, I think, in 69, I think, or 70, when I was studying in Israel. And so that's where I come from. And the realization that this is obviously my passion, now in a different capacity, but it gives me, yes, I have a certain historical overview, and this is what I want to do. And over the years, through all the difficult political and economical situations, there have always been a lot of people who said, Charon, you need to show a lot more commercial work because you need to sell. And I don't think there's anything wrong with commercial or more traditional jewelry. It's just not what I want to do. It's not what I want to do. It has very little to do, if at all, with the passion I feel for this field of what we call contemporary jewelry. And I can say that no matter how difficult, if this is your passion and if this is what you want to be, stick to it. Which brings me, and you and I have talked about this, to the most essential question in dealing with education and younger jewelry artists. And to me, that is, who do you want to be? Who do you want to be in this field? Do you want to be a commercial jewelry artist? Do you want to work in high-end? Do you want to be working in a fashion jewelry, custom jewelry, or more the one-of-a-kind kind of gallery gear?
It's a kind of survival fight between everyone would like to sell, but without giving up to their conviction in their work.
Well,
is it right?
I don't think it's so much in the first place about selling. It is
so just to earn everyone's day.
To be in this field, where what makes you get up in the morning thinking about, and also how is your specific talent best served? If that's in a more commercial setting, then be the best commercial jeweler you can be. I don't care. It's about your life. It's about your happiness and well-being. So instead of saying, oh, I just want to make jewelry, I think you have to think about these things. What in the end, because if you can't make that decision, it's like being in a unhappy marriage, being in a unhappy relationship. Well, if that's what you want to be my guest. But so yeah, a lot of people say to me, I'm in my 72nd year on this planet, and people say, don't you want to stop? Don't you want to retire? And I'm like, no, I feel still too excited and
involved in what you are doing, of course.
Right. So this is, to me, an essential question, and I can understand, especially from younger jewelry artists, that there is a lot of confusion about where to go, how to do it, who to approach, how to make a living. And I don't know. Recently, I spoke to a client of mine who said, I really feel bad for all these young people who have been going for a year and a half now through this pandemic, and all the things they have been missing and lost, etc., etc. And I would be the first person to acknowledge that that is true. But I also thought of something else, and that is what we learn through a difficult situation. Everybody who graduates falls into a black hole because you're away from your normal support system of teachers, professors, fellow students, you name it. And all of a sudden you're on your own. And that is a hard
situation. The first step to doing the real world.
But I think that is also the time where you, in that sort of transitional time, where you learn something essential for life. And when I think of the pandemic, a lot of people got depressed and isolated and paralyzed, but others maybe use this situation to learn something about themselves and somehow learning tools to manage this situation. I can say that for myself, that when I came to this country, it was the middle of the AIDS crisis, especially in New York. And then, of course, we had 9/11. Those are situations and times where I honestly believe that we learned something, so that when I think about the past year and a half in the pandemic, and I don't mean to sound pretentious, but we learned something, and we learned something from before. So
do you think that artists will register this changing of their practice and of their feelings, and try to put all these feelings in their words? Do you already observe it with some of your artists, or maybe discuss it with them?
Well, a couple of things. Art is about life. You don't make art when you are in a perfect balanced situation, where everything around you is harmonious, right?
He's an urgence.
Sit in your studio, and even if you don't know the hell what you're going to do, and you feel like you have no inspiration and you have no talent, and you go through all that chatter in your head, but you sit in your studio and you go through that whole process and something will happen. Same during this time. Last week, I was asked to do a portfolio review of graduate students in our field of the Academy of Art in San Francisco. And so I had Zoom sessions with them. And there was one graduate student, originally from Japan, now living in Brazil, who had a background in architecture. And when she showed me her portfolio, you know, it was very much from this sort of design, architectural background. I could see it was a much more formal approach. And then she told me, she said, during the pandemic, you know, the only place I could go was to the park, near the park where she lived. And she said, I would just lie in the grass and look at the trees and the structure of the trees and the tree bark. And it inspired her. So the collection she made after this, based on that tree bark, was just so amazing. And the way she said, I discovered I felt freer. So we talked about it, and I said, yeah, you know, like your background of architecture and design, when you're an architect, you always have to work with a lot of different people. So your original...
You're not free. You're not free in choices.
And this is something that gives you a whole different feeling of, wow, I don't have to consider anybody. I don't have to listen to anybody. I can follow my, what I would call, voice. And, you know, it sort of liberated her and made her discover something that she didn't know before. So, you know, when I think about that example, is, again, it sort of brings it back to education and what we are supposed to do on this relatively short time that we're on this planet. And that is understanding and discovering what your voice is. And people might say, well, you know, this is me because I made it. Well, yes, your hands made it, but where are you in this piece?
And this is another element that you are in your, when for example, I remember when we worked together with the jury for Gioielli in Fermento, this was a really interesting point. Your choices were very straight, were very direct. Do you look every time for this kind of decision in the pieces when you have to evaluate, for example, for a jury, this kind of competitions, or if you have to, for example, to review the portfolios and
well, and of course, you know, this is just whatever I say comes from, you know, what I see with my eyes and what I hear my ears, and
we are human, so every one of us, if it is called to express and judge.
So I don't really expect anybody to agree with me, but this is the way I look at work. And what I look for is you can take a theme completely outside of yourself. Oh, let's try to investigate this theme in my work. Nothing wrong with it, but most often you end up making something that actually doesn't have much of a connection with you. And I think the more you make work that really resonates with something deep inside of you, then there is a connection. And so that's the way I look at work. Like, and I have, I can have a lot of anecdotes where I could sort of give that as an example, but we are so lucky that we are makers and that we can discover things about ourselves, our view of the world, or things that inspire us. And the work mirrors us. I think the work says something about us. Actually, this is very similar to how I, in the most ideal situation, work with my clients also. And it's often a very interesting discussion. It's not just about selling a piece, but it's like, why are you attracted to this piece? Do you have any idea? Because this piece says something in a non-verbal way about something about you. I totally believe that. And once that is, it is the right choice. It doesn't always mean that you will end up buying that piece, but at least you establish a connection. So I think it's a wonderful principle to work with.
So this is this also your recipe to find new collectors, to instigate in new generations, not only the artists, the makers, but also the way to start collecting jewelry, because this is another problem, or maybe issues that can be faced because it's difficult to intersect the work of art with the collector, the observer that could choose exactly that piece.
Well, I know this is probably going to sound very elitist and pretentious, but both as a maker and as a wearer, I think you have to have, for this kind of work, you have to have a certain emotional intelligence.
Well, it's such the intelligenza emotiva is a really lovely concept. It's.
I also think you have to have a certain, I would almost say, sophistication, because it really comes, people are so, we're talking about jewelry that's worn on the body. People are extremely conscious of their bodies, Is my body perfect enough, or am I too this or too that? And how will the jewelry look on that? And is the proportion right? Etc., etc. So you need, in order to say, even if I'm a short person, but I love this big brooch, I don't care. I don't give a shit. I love it and I want to wear it because you're connecting with this piece. In order to do that, you have to have a certain courage. You have to have a certain maturity.
a balance with yourself. You
Right.
have to be in balance with yourself.
Right. And say, you know, I don't care what anybody says. It makes my day. It makes me happy. I want to wear it. It supports me. It communicates something about myself. Um, and I think, you know, when you talk about developing younger collectors, and this is definitely my experience, I understand this is a generalization, but most people who would make those choices are usually more mature in age also. Like I don't need to have a Mercedes because my neighbor has a Mercedes, and I don't need to wear designer clothes because blah blah blah. You know, we too often think about what others say and the idea they have of us instead of just following your own path, your own voice. This is who I want to be. This is what I want to wear. So I've been in situations where I would bring work to a much younger crowd who definitely had the money, but you know, they were still very much in the Tiffany mode and in the Cartier mode. It's recognizable, you know, it's accessible. Oh wow, you're wearing a so and so and so. And the somewhat older people in the crowd were just so much more curious.
Yes, it's a research. It's the taste of the research of something different, of something that meets better your feeling, your state
And
of mind.
it is in the end something that we all have to go through because we're human. And you know, when I think about this interview, for instance, I've been wearing jogging pants all year. Often I didn't shave or didn't shower. I was just working on the computer because nobody saw me and I didn't need to be presentable. And this morning I was in stress, like, and I have to shave and I even put on some aftershave. Can you smell it? You know, like I have to put on a clean shirt and because I have to be presentable. And then, of course, I thought, you know, this is all nonsense because it's just, you know, you can present yourself in your jogging pants and it's really about what you want to communicate and convey. But, you know, we're human.
Yeah. What are you wearing today?
I'm wearing a Miriam Hiller brooch.
We can. Okay, okay, wonderful. A wonderful green, green Miriam Hiller brooch.
Miriam Hiller brooch from Germany, right. We've worked together for a very long time. I would say most of the artists that I work with work in non-traditional materials, but there are also people who work in precious material. It's not the material necessarily, because material, as same as techniques, they serve, right? They serve what? They serve an idea, a concept. So whether something is made of, you know, paper or gold, to me, in essence, doesn't really make a difference, because we can all make any material precious. What I mean by that, again, it comes down to the voice. I have an interesting anecdote, and I'll try to make it short. To sort of clarify what that really means. So there is a very famous black opera singer. Her name is Leontine Price. She's an American black opera singer. She's now close to 90 years old, but she was very famous. Maybe 20 years ago, I went to a master class. Okay, what does that mean? It means the audience sits in a auditorium. There is the stage, and Leontine Price stands there, and there are about 5 singers who have to perform a certain aria. Not all together, but one by one. So here comes this soprano, young soprano, with a beautiful voice, and she sings part of an aria of the opera Carmen. And she starts, and immediately Leontine Price said, "Stop, stop." She looks baffled. She's like, "Where are you in this song?" She doesn't understand what Leontine Price is saying. I said, "You have to be in it, really. You have to be in it." So she tries again. And again, she has a beautiful voice, and she sings the notes as they were composed. This goes on 5 or 6 times. And every time Leontine Price stops her. At the 6th time, she starts again. The audience en masse jumps up and starts cheering. What happened? At the 6th attempt, she was able to, I would say, infuse her unique je ne sais quoi, her unique, whatever you want to call it, infuse it in the interpretation. The audience, and they were not all knowledgeable, but
experts.
They got it. So when we go back to whether something is made of paper or wood or silicone or gold or whatever, it is what you, with your unique talent of je ne sais quoi, infuses whatever you're making.
And everyone can acknowledge it.
Well,
or maybe we can agree that we all go and be hit by that piece.
Right. So to me, that is something that relates to the voice, your unique voice, what you do with it. And, you can just be in awe. I thought, in all these years, 50 plus years that I've seen everything, but every time, that's probably why I'm still doing what I'm doing, I can be totally surprised, like, wow, what I get to see here is really a piece of the artist's mind. Like, wow.
That's something that is universal.
Right.
It's
surprising.
Surprising, like a great piece of art.
Of course, the artist doesn't make it to surprise you and me. It's about surprising yourself in the first place. Like, wow.
I think that anyone has experienced the moment of creation, of the result of creation, has felt this coming from the bottom. It's something that you think, yes, this is done. This is really achieved. And it's something that comes out in a very, very precise way. And it's not, oh, well, so, but I will do it. I will add something. I will make it better. No, when you have this excitement of creations, of creative moment that is accomplished.
That I agree with, but you also mentioned, or you used the word resolve. And that is something that, again, that I think is very complicated because, I think as artists, we often also have kind of a blind spot. Like we think something is finished and we're very sort of proud that we
make it.
And we don't take enough distance to look at it and say, okay, let's just wait a while and let me digest and look at it once more, et cetera, et cetera. And then really ask myself the question whether this piece is really what I would call resolved.
So this is your suggestion, to put a distance after the exciting moment of creation, of creativity, to be aware and observe like an outsider the singular work.
Self-criticism is hard. That's something...
It's impossible.
Impossible, correct. But at the same time, incredibly necessary also. Because, we're often so convinced that this is the only way this problem can be solved. And to take some distance and explore more, go more in depth, go more vertical versus horizontal, really helps you discover things about it that before you didn't realize. The reality often is that, we're working with deadlines for an exhibition, for an art fair, you name it. And then work is being sent out often before it's really ready. And I realize that I'm touching on a subject now that we can probably discuss for more than a day. How you really define when a piece is ready and leave the studio. But I think it's a very important issue because once the piece leaves the studio, it's out in the world. And it's like your business card to the outside world. And for that reason, I think it's extremely important to think about these issues of, is it ready? Is it, I can put a chicken in the oven and if I take it out, too early, it's not done. It's kind of as a metaphor. And I think with a lot of work is...
We talk about this also concerning the images of works. we were talking about, and this is another side of the same issue, to spread the images of your works and
well, times have changed, and I'm from a different generation. There are even different cultures where they just take a lot more time to finish something and not be rushed. But nowadays, especially with a lot of the social media, we think we need to be everywhere. And we need to be seen, and we need to be part of every exhibition and every competition and every, instead of taking the time, and it's almost like not knowing how to say no, afraid that we will, not be asked again, that we'll fall off the bandwagon, instead of saying, I'm honored that you asked me, but I'm not quite ready with the series that I'm working on, and it's too early. And, I'd be happy to show you once it's more finished. We live at a time where everybody needs to see everything and everybody needs to know from everybody, and
it is also something connected to also some kind of preciousness of our work, so that it's not to be consumed in an instant, because when you put it outside on the network, it's already gone, and it's maybe a kind of shyness of maintaining this preciousness of the work.
Everybody is different. There are jewelry artists who want to be seen everywhere, and others want to be more, and I'm using a word that probably people can attack me for, I want to be more exclusive. Call it elitist. I think a lot of my clients don't want to see this work everywhere. They pay a lot of money for something that should be more exclusive. And, everybody is different. I think I really see on social media artists who are way too much exposed. They're everywhere. Every social media you open, oh, here she is. Oh, here, like, what is that? What is that about? And maybe this is something because, as a young artist, when you haven't built up a clientele, it is, especially during this time, incredible. It's hard anyway, but it takes years. The only reason I was able to survive during this pandemic from a business point of view was because I have developed very loyal clientele who understood during this time that the situation for the artist is very difficult because no exhibitions, no art fairs, no galleries open. So how can we support? And I am extremely grateful that a lot of these clients responded. Of course, I was offering a good discount, but, because they understood the situation. Because where am I if I can't have great work from the artist? So the artist has to work.
And this is still a central role for a gallerist, because can have a global vision to make a relation with the collectors. While if from the point of view of a single artist, it's more difficult. It is not also. It is very a personal side. So it has to be this recognized as a strong role for the galleries, by the galleries. Sorry, my English is my English.
I basically had no income from early March till like September or so, because nobody was really interested in buying jewelry.
And they had very very serious worries about the situation. So jewelry is something that comes after.
So I had my own financial pressure, like wondering whether my business could survive. not just with the jewelry, but also with the books, because the universities were closed, the libraries were closed, And but on top of that, I also felt a lot of pressure from the artist. And you can say, well, sales are never a guarantee, but in the end, as a gallery, I am part of a system that provides artists with a certain income. That's, part
A
of.
responsibility.
I know. So and you know that from me. That's, I haven't been um, in love with social media. I've worked without it for many, many years.
You're a bit hidden.
But
You're a bit hidden from the social media. We have to discover you little by little.
But during this time, I started Instagram, and I had to say to myself, Charon, this is what we have right now, and you better use it. And I discovered something that had a very, very kind of immediate good response, and I was totally surprised. And it's not the only way, but it had a lot to do with, okay, Charon, go behind the computer every day, whether you like it or not, but this is the way to work right now.
Mm-hmm.
I have to say, since September, I have sold a lot of work. It's not my favorite way of selling work at all, because again, you're dealing with images.
You start with the relationship with the collector through Instagram, showing new pieces, but then you go on with a direct relation with the customer, didn't you?
Because I think my business is more than anything based upon person-to-person relationship. All of a sudden, through Instagram, I'm working with completely anonymous people who I've never seen. I don't know how they look like. It's hard for me to advise them because, when I see you, I have a certain idea what might look good on you, and your interest, your aesthetic, your proportions, etc., etc. With these anonymous people. So it's a whole different way of working that I find difficult, and I find it difficult also to work with just images, two-dimensional images versus,
real life,
where people can just
and the 3 dimensions of the works.
Yeah. So I don't
Charon,
know.
we are we are going very, very fast. The time is flying, but many people are sending greetings to you, and from Israel, from Italy, of course, from France, and I can read that many people enjoyed when we talk about how to involve new collectors, and the fact that the age, that the maturity of collectors that comes with age. And also that Francesca Vitali was saying collector age is older than in other fields, in other art fields, I guess.
Right. And I think it has something to do with the fact that jewelry is related to the body. It's different than buying a painting for your house. But the key word here is education. And, one of the the difficult things about art fairs, as you know, Ileana, art are obscenely expensive. Obscenely. You know,
Yes.
it's hard to make a profit, but you do them because it's a good way to develop new clients. You walk into a booth, you don't just look at an individual piece, but you see the vision of the gallery. That's where education starts. Like, what am I looking at? I don't know what I'm looking at. I'm fascinated and I'm inspired, but tell me about it. You know, that's
Yes.
where
It's
that's,
the way to involve people to get in touch with your gallery.
well, but also get in touch with something they've maybe never seen before. And so that's the great thing about the art fairs. And that, of course, has not been happening. I'm supposed to participate in an art fair late July in,
Oh, so this is your next project.
and I have to tell you, I am very hesitant to get on a plane. And you know me, I travel abroad twice a month, the whole year for many, many years. I haven't been in a plane since mid-February 2020, and I have hesitation. But I know that I have to do it because, you know, it's an art fair where I might find new clients. I found when I did the fair last year, which was right before the pandemic, I met a woman who is not related to the jewelry field, completely fell in love, bought for like $30,000 and has been a client ever since. Nobody knows about her. And you think, yeah, I mean,
There's still someone out there that do
no,
not know art jewelry yet.
during an art fair, you meet people who normally you wouldn't. So,
So even if it is change your work because you're giving a lot of seminars or reviewing online with this kind of technology,
well,
the real life is
it
something different.
slowly start again. And yeah, I'm just not planning too much because in the end, I think it's fair to say that all of us are really in survival mode. We don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. We don't know how our future is going to look like. So
We have to act day by day and be.
what I have been doing and be happy with the progress we make. And yeah, maybe it will end up in a totally different lifestyle. I'm already living in a complete different rhythm. You know, I have breakfast with my husband every day, lunch with my husband, dinner with my husband.
A lot of cooking.
Movie, and normally I'm often away, you know, before, and it's not all bad, but it's just I don't know where this is going. But like you said, day by day, and you know, it's another difficult,
Yes.
challenging period that maybe we will learn something from it.
I'm dream about could have you here for another seminar or for another exhibition.
You know, it will. I'm sure
It's
it will.
wondering if
will
this could happen
It
in the
will
future.
happen. But like what I said earlier on, life, and I don't want to become too philosophical about it, but life presents us often with very unexpected, challenging, very challenging situations. Some people become totally depressed and paralyzed, Others maybe learn something from it. And on a personal note, when this was all happening and people were screaming about and going crazy after 1 month of lockdown, what helped me very much was thinking about my own mother, who during the Second World War was hidden for 4 years. Think about that. Couldn't go anywhere. It helped me because I had a reference. Like, what are we talking about? There are lots of places in the world where all of a sudden there's a war and kids can't go to school for years. And, we are so used to our normal rhythm. And when something interferes with that, we freak out. And so it
was a discipline. It has been a discipline, a new discipline, a new way to the Zen of lockdown that we have to face. Here in Italy, we are blossoming again with late spring, and very, very confident in the future, in be back to all the best of we can experiment in our lives outside all these closed places, without relations, without exchanges, especially for makers, for artists, for people that live with the confrontation with the others. And this is really what we missed more.
In the animal world, they hibernate. We could look at this time as
an hibernation.
Where when we wake up, we feel refreshed and we have different thoughts and different plans, and because we're always on, especially here in New York, of course, but I mean, we're always on. We have to do, and you get tired of it.
So get up on a plane and come to Milano, please. We will be waiting for you anytime. And so I really wish to thank you for this nice conversation. I know you know me. I could go on all day long with you. It's like a training for me. And I think also,
we're touching on subjects that need a lot more discussion, and it's sort of thought-provoking. Like I said, you don't have to accept. These are just some of my ideas, and they are deep and important issues to think about if you want to become or be a professional artist. You're faced with a lot of things that people who have a 9-to-5 job and a regular paycheck never have to think about. But this is the reality of many artists, and it's real. So you have to find a way not to be completely paralyzed by that. And
as Nishka is suggesting, this is our blue room where to discuss and confront each other and exchange thoughts
I love that concept.
And inspirations.
You don't have to do anything. You don't have to make anything. You can just brainstorm and discuss, and in a sort of open atmosphere. Very important.
Yes.
Stretch your brain.
And here there are a lot of your artist that greetings you and thank you, Jota. She is saying very inspiring as always. Francesca Vitali. She said that we are talking a lot. So really thank you everyone for listening to our conversation, and thank you Sharon. I really hope to meet you soon in person, especially in Italy or in New York.
Thank you all as well. I think of you artists all the time because I realize I cannot do my work without your work. So in that respect, we're all in the same boat and we just have to make the best of it. But, you know, so in that respect, yeah, we need each other and we need to get through this somehow. And if it's not going to kill you, it's going to make you stronger. This is not something I invented, but I've heard this before. But, you know, and you also think about this for a moment. Okay, the situation here in New York was very difficult because, as you know, we live on top of each other. And for months, every day, thousands and thousands of people would die every day. And people were scared and stressed and you name it. And but every day there are things you can do to have some form of sanity. And I realized as artists, again, we have a great privilege. I am able to look every day at beautiful work and creative work and inspiring work. Boy, did that support me through this whole time. Think about that.
Yes, you are right. You're absolutely right. For me, it has been the same. The first thing I'm thinking in the morning when I get up, and the last one when I go to bed. And thank you, artists, for this great gift that you.
We are privileged. We are.
Yes.
Good to take that in, I think.
Thank you, Sharon.
Diana, I love you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much.
Thank
you so much for your time.
Ok?
Ok.
Ciao, grazie mille. Ciao, arrivederci.